Here is something that should genuinely stop you in your tracks. A study tracking data from over 2 million people found that every extra inch added to your waist increases your risk of dying early by around 10%. Not 10% over a lifetime of obviously terrible choices. 10% per inch, measured, documented, replicated across multiple populations. And what makes this so important and honestly so frightening is that the fat responsible for that statistic is not the fat you can see. It is not the fat you can grab or pinch. It is visceral fat. It sits deep inside your abdomen, packed around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines. You cannot feel it from the outside. And in 13 years of practicing emergency medicine, I can tell you with absolute certainty, this is the fat that shortens lives. Quietly, progressively, and almost always without any warning at all. For those of you who are new here, my name is Dr. Miles. I am an emergency medicine physician with 13 years of clinical experience. On this channel, I share evidence-based information on the things that actually determine how long you live and how well you live. No supplements to sell you, no shortcuts, just the science. And if you are not subscribed yet, please do that right now before we go any further. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. I put out new content every single week, and I genuinely do not want you to miss what is coming. Now, let us get into this. The part I want you to hold on to from the very beginning of this video is this. Visceral fat is reversible, and in the next few minutes, I am going to give you a precise 5-step plan built entirely on real science for getting rid of it and directly extending how long you live. But before I get into the steps, let me say something that I think genuinely needs to be said. Nobody watching this is here because they made easy choices. Most of us are working long hours, sitting down for the majority of the day, surrounded by ultra-processed food that is specifically engineered to be irresistible, and trying to afford fruit and vegetables that have somehow become a luxury. The system is not designed in your favor. That is not an excuse, it is just the truth. And I think you deserve to hear that before anybody starts handing you a list of things to do differently. The goal here is not perfection. The goal is a small number of consistent changes that over time will fundamentally shift your metabolic environment and your risk of dying early along with it. Now, most people, when they think about fat, think about subcutaneous fat, the fat just beneath the skin, the bit that changes how you look in the mirror. And some of that fat, particularly around the hips and thighs, is actually metabolically protective. It is largely cosmetic. It is not the thing that is going to kill you. Visceral fat is a completely different biological entity. It drains directly into the portal vein, the blood supply that feeds straight into your liver, which means your liver is continuously bathed in the inflammatory molecules and fatty acids that visceral fat constantly releases. Over time, this drives fat accumulation in the liver itself, raises your triglycerides, pushes your blood pressure up, and creates exactly the hormonal environment in which insulin resistance takes hold. There is actually a clinical term for what this looks like on the outside. TOFI. Thin outside, fat inside. You can look perfectly slim and be carrying dangerous levels of visceral fat around your organs. It is far more common than most people realize. And it is exactly why your bathroom scales are almost completely useless for measuring what actually matters for how long you live. The Framingham Heart Study, one of the longest-running cardiovascular studies ever conducted, found that visceral fat predicted heart disease outcomes completely independently of overall body weight. Your waist circumference tells us more about your risk of dying early than your BMI does. That is not a minor finding. Now, before I go into the 5 steps, I need you to take one idea and hold it through everything that follows. The goal is not weight loss. The goal is metabolic restoration. Weight loss, when it happens, is a byproduct of getting that right, because visceral fat is hormonally driven. It responds to insulin levels, to stress hormones, to how well you are sleeping, to how much you are moving across the entire day. You can eat less, lose weight, and still have chronically elevated insulin, quietly driving central fat accumulation. The number on the scale goes down, but the dangerous fat does not. Keep that in mind for every step that follows. Step 1. Lower your insulin first. This is where I would start with almost every patient, because visceral fat is exquisitely sensitive to insulin. When insulin is chronically elevated, which happens when you are regularly eating refined carbohydrates, drinking liquid sugar, snacking on ultra-processed food throughout the day, visceral fat expands. When insulin comes down, visceral fat is preferentially mobilized. Your body starts burning that first. This is one of the most well-replicated findings in all of metabolic research. Practically, this starts with removing liquid sugar. Fruit juice, fizzy drinks, sweetened coffee, energy drinks. These produce a rapid insulin spike with no signal to your brain that you are full. They are metabolically expensive, and they do not satisfy you. From there, the next lever is reducing ultra-processed food, not because of vague clean eating principles, but because these foods are specifically engineered to drive overconsumption and keep your insulin elevated all day long. The direct trial demonstrated that reducing carbohydrate intake produced a significant reduction in liver fat, sometimes within weeks. Not months, weeks. Increase your protein to around 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. Protein is the most filling macronutrient and has a far more modest effect on insulin than refined carbs. And increase your fiber intake. Most people are eating around 15 grams a day when the target should be 30 to 40. Fiber slows glucose absorption and directly improves insulin sensitivity over time. Step 2. Build muscle. Non-negotiable. When most people want to lose fat, they go straight to cardio. I understand why. But for visceral fat specifically, resistance training, lifting weights, building strength is arguably more important. Muscle is the primary site in your body where glucose gets cleared from the bloodstream. More muscle means your body disposes of glucose more efficiently, which means lower insulin levels are required, which means less drive to accumulate visceral fat. Multiple meta-analyses confirm that resistance training reduces visceral fat independently of changes in body weight. You can lose visceral fat without the number on the scale moving at all. There's also a mortality angle here that I think more people need to hear. Grip strength and overall muscle strength predicts lifespan better than BMI across virtually every population ever studied. Strength is a proxy for metabolic reserve. It tells us something profound about how well the whole system is functioning. 3 to 4 sessions per week, built around compound movements, squats, deadlifts, rows, presses. Increasing the weight gradually over time. You do not need to become a powerlifter. You need to be consistently stronger than you were 6 months ago. And if you are losing weight, but getting weaker, you are losing the wrong thing. Step 3. Fix your sleep or undo everything else. I do not think most people understand just how specifically and directly poor sleep drives visceral fat accumulation. Sleep restriction raises cortisol. It elevates ghrelin, the hormone that makes you hungry, while suppressing leptin, which tells you that you are full. And it directly worsens insulin sensitivity. There are controlled studies where people were placed on identical calorie deficits, but one group had their sleep restricted. That group lost significantly less fat and significantly more muscle, not because they ate differently, because they slept less. Chronic sleep deprivation preferentially increases central fat. This is not a general observation. This is what the studies show specifically about visceral fat around your waist and your organs. The practical system is this: a fixed sleep and wake time every single day. 7 to 8 hours treated as a genuine non-negotiable. Bedroom temperature, around 18 degrees Celsius. This is based on the core temperature drop your body needs to initiate deep sleep. And a real boundary around stimulating content in the 90 minutes before bed, not because screens are evil, but because of what they do to your arousal state right before you are trying to sleep. Put as much deliberate effort into your sleep as you put into your diet. The metabolic return on that is enormous. Step 4. Move more across the entire day, not just in the gym. This is something I think we will be talking about far more in the next few years. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. Everything your body burns outside of formal exercise, walking, standing, moving between tasks, doing things around the house. Research shows variation of up to 2,000 calories per day between individuals from NEAT alone, not from different gym programs, just from how much people move in ordinary life. 2,000 calories. Think about what that means. And here's the part that most people miss entirely. Visceral fat correlates strongly with sedentary time independently of whether someone exercises. You can train for an hour and then sit completely still for the remaining 15 hours. And the metabolic consequences of all of that sedentary time are not canceled out by the gym session. Your body does not work that way. The practical target is 8 to 12,000 steps daily as a baseline. Walk after every meal. There is solid evidence that even a 10-minute walk after eating significantly blunts the blood sugar spike that follows. Break up prolonged sitting wherever you can. Walk while you take phone calls. Set an alarm every hour. This is not really exercise. It is simply replacing the movement that modern life has quietly taken away from us. Step 5. Measure what actually matters. Your bathroom scales are one of the least useful tools for tracking visceral fat. Weight can stay almost the same while visceral fat falls significantly because you are building muscle at the same time. Weight can drop while visceral fat barely shifts because you are losing it from the wrong places. The better measurement is your waist circumference, measured consistently, at the same point, at the same time of day. The target most metabolic health researchers use is a waist-to-height ratio below 0.5. Your waist in centimeters should be less than half your height in centimeters. If you are 180 centimeters tall, your waist should be below 90. This is a meaningful, trackable, honest number. Beyond that, there are blood markers worth knowing about. Fasting insulin is rarely measured in standard health checks, but is one of the most informative early signals of metabolic dysfunction. It often starts rising years before your blood glucose shows anything abnormal. Triglycerides tend to rise as visceral fat accumulates, and ALT, a liver enzyme, creeps up as fat builds in the liver and is one of the earliest signs that something is going wrong underneath the surface. Visceral fat loss tends to show up in your waist before your weight, and in your blood results before your appearance. Measure the things that actually reflect what is happening inside your body. In 13 years of emergency medicine, I have never looked at a serious cardiac event and thought it came from nowhere. These things do not come from nowhere. They come from decades of silent metabolic damage that was never caught early enough, never taken seriously enough to reverse. Visceral fat is silent. It is inflammatory. It is progressive. And it is one of the most powerful drivers of early death that we know of. But it is reversible. You do not need extreme dieting. You do not need 2 hours in the gym every day. You do not need expensive supplements. And I would encourage you to be very skeptical of anyone online trying to sell you those. You need a system that lowers your insulin, builds and preserves muscle, protects your sleep, and increases your daily movement. Do those 5 things consistently, and visceral fat will shrink as a direct consequence of your metabolic environment improving. If this video gave you something genuinely useful today, please hit the like button right now. It helps this information reach more people who need it. And if you are not yet subscribed, please subscribe to this channel today. I share evidence-based videos every single week on exactly these topics, the things that actually determine how long and how well you live. No gimmicks, no supplements, just science. I genuinely do not want you to miss what is coming next. I will see you in the next one.